Alright, as you can tell by the title of this video, you're going to be learning my video, game, and keybind settings today. Alright, so my video settings, I do full screen, 1920 by 1080, 240 FPS. The reason being it's 240 and not unlimited is because my frame rates are more consistent. I'm not bouncing between like 200 and, unlimited frames. I like to cap it at 240 and it's more stable for me. 3D resolution 100%, view distance epic. I like to see things farther to have that advantage. Shadows off, hate shadows in FPS games. Anti-aliasing medium, textures epic because I want this game to at least look good whenever I'm playing it. Effects I keep medium and post-processing I keep low. VSync, I'll turn it on when I'm streaming, but otherwise I turn it off because you get better frames and better input responses as it says in the description there. Motion blur off, never turn motion blur on FPS games, and show FPS is on. I'm in the East, so I play on NA East. You could leave it on auto, that's fine, but I just like to manually set it. That's actually pretty high ping right now. Anyhow, mouse sensitivity X, 0.08, mouse sensitivity Y, 0.06. Another thing to keep in mind is my DPI on my mouse is at 1000. So you might have to adjust, if it's higher, if your DPI is higher than 1000, you might have to lower these settings. If your DPI is lower than 1000, you might have to increase these settings. Just play around with it and figure it out. Yeah, that's something you kind of have to figure out on your own. Mouse targeting sensitivity, I keep it 0.6, and mouse scope sensitivity, I keep it 0.4. Reason being I keep it at 0.4, why don't I keep these even? Whenever I'm zoomed in with a bolt action or something, or whatever I'm using, I don't like to be like all over the place. Like when I barely move my mouse, you want your shots to line up precisely, and you want to be as precise as you can when you're sniping at people. You don't want to have like a super high DPI and not be able to hit their face. Moving on. I don't play with controller, so you guys with controllers might have to kind of figure this out yourself. I've watched a few videos though, and a lot of people like to keep their controller sensitivities on 0.6. I don't know why they do, but they do, and I can't tell you the controller sensitivity stuff. Career mode off, all that stuff is default. Everything is default here except a few things, so I'll just touch up on the things that are not default here. I'm not going to go through and name each one. The only thing that's not default is sprint by default. I keep that on. I don't have to hold my shift key, so I keep that on. Tap to search interact, I keep on. I'll just throw out an example. Whenever you go to revive a teammate, instead of holding the button to revive them, you can just press it, and then this allows you to open up your inventory and drop bandages or med kits or minis or whatever you have. So that's another nice thing. Everything default, default, default. Everything's default. Record replays, I turn on just so I can learn from my mistakes. If you die really silly or something, you can always go back and watch it and learn what you could have did to make things better for your situation. I just want to touch up on the music volume real quick. I hate the Fortnite music, and I always turn it down just so I can barely hear it. Keybinds. I'm going to try to go through these pretty quickly, but if I feel it's important, I am going to talk about it for a little bit. So just bear with me through this section. Forward move, left move, backward right. It's all the basic stuff, WASD. Jump is spacebar. Sprint is left control. Now, normally sprint is going to be your left shift, but since I do sprint by default, I don't have to hold my shift key anymore to sprint, so I actually changed my crouch key to the shift key. It's much more natural for me to press. My pinky actually rests on the shift key, so it's so much easier for me to press crouch now instead of the left control. I understand the keys, left control and left shift, are really close to each other, but my pinky rests on left shift, so it's more natural. Fire, target, left mouse, right mouse button. Reload is O. I don't actually press the O key, okay? I have a Logitech G602 mouse, and there is a mouse DPI button right next to the end of my left mouse button, so it's really easy for me to press reload, and I have that DPI mouse button just rebound to the O key. So yeah, I don't actually press O. Use for me is G. I changed it from F to G just recently, and I'll explain here in a bit. Harvesting tool is tab. I press tab a lot in other games, so it's pretty easy for me to just easily get to the harvesting tool. I'm really going to touch up on the weapon slots here. Slot E, or weapon slot 1 is E. Your index finger, alright, usually rests on the D key. So it's very easy for me to press E instead of pressing 1, 2, and 3. If you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and you're good at that, it's good. I did it for a long time, but I've changed here in the past couple months, and I've noticed how much better I've become. Some would say different, but you know, whatever. Slot 1 is E. It's easy to press with my index finger. Slot 2 is R. It's easy to press with my index finger. E and R are right next to each other. Weapon slot 3 is C. I press C a lot in other games too, usually like to crouch or something, but I just use it for weapon slot 3. It's easy to press. Weapon slot 4 is X, and weapon slot 5 is Z. X and Z, these two slots right here, are usually going to be my healing or explode slots. So like I'll always keep a healing in slot 5, maybe explode in slot 4. Here's my basic loadout, what it would usually be. Shotgun in slot 1, sniper in slot 2, and either an SMG or an AR in slot 3. Now if I don't have a sniper, usually I'll run like my next long range weapon in slot 2, and then slot C is usually like my short to medium range weapon. You can actually switch that around. Sometimes I run the short range weapon next to R because, you know, E and R are right next to each other and it's easy to press. And then sometimes I run my range weapon in the third slot, but it's kind of your choice. You just have to play with what you like. Toggle harvesting tool, I don't even bound it. Crouch while building is left shift, same as my crouch button. Wall is Q. The reason wall is Q is because it's the easiest, it should be the easiest button for you to press. You press it with your left ring finger, you press it with your left ring finger. That's the most important, walls are your most important buildings, because if you're getting shot at, your first thing you're going to do is place down some walls. So Q should be, walls should be the quickest, you should have that bound to the quickest button you can press, which for me is Q, and I would think most people would agree. Another great thing about my keybinds, guys, is if you only have 2 mouse buttons, you can actually, 2 side mouse buttons I should say, you can actually get away running these. Floor is the back mouse button for me, and the stair is the forward mouse button. But I have multiple side mouse buttons on mine, so I'll, you know, there's probably a picture on the screen at some point now, like circle the areas that I'm pressing. Roof is 4. It's a very easy button for me to click. It's a very easy key for me to push. So, excuse me, I will run roofs on 4. Trap is T. I think it's a good habit to run T is your traps and not like a side mouse button or something. Place building, left mouse button. Repair upgrade V. Rotate building is Y. I don't rotate buildings often, and if I need to, it's pretty easy for me to press Y, but most of the time I'm not going to be pressing them anyways. Rotating, I mean, sorry. All this is default. A vehicle exit is G. That's the same button I would use to enter a vehicle, so it should be the same button I'd use to exit. Vehicle change seat is H. It's just right on the other side of G, and I don't change seats that often, so it's not like a priority or anything. It's not like a button I'm going to be pressing all the time, so H is fine. Vehicle honk horn, right mouse button, wow. Shopping cart, spacebar, ATK power slide, spacebar, trap equip / picker not bound. Previous picker wheel, I keep mouse wheel down and next wheel picker, mouse wheel up. This is just for your emotes and such. This is default. Switch quick bar, ion bound. Slot up, ion bound, slot down, ion bound, because this is what allows you to change weapons with your middle mouse wheel. And I never liked doing that. It was too inconsistent. You couldn't hardly pick the gun you wanted that easily, so it's just much easier to press your weapon keybinds. Chat is enter, emotes B, all this is unbound. Squad comms, never use it, but it's P. Actually, I probably could unbind this, but I'm not going to. I never use button P, so it's fine. Map is M, inventory is I, push to talk is not bound. I usually just keep game chat on. And you can't see it down here, but this is the edit button. Editing is F, building edit is F. The reason being, I changed my use from F to G, and I changed my edit from G to F is because whenever you're build battling, you really want to be able to edit as quickly as you possibly can. You want to have every advantage you can on your opponent. And even if you have a half second or a quarter second or whatever it may be, you want that advantage. So I use F because it's quicker. You can pull off an edit much faster than you can with G. Now if you're used to G and you're quick with G, I'd say it's okay, but if you're really looking for like your long-term improvement, I think you're going to have the best bet with these keybinds I just listed right here. One thing I want to point out with all my keybinds is you never have to take your finger off the move forward key, which is W. You should always be moving forward in Fortnite. You should always be moving in general in Fortnite. You hold still for a second and you know you're going to get sniped. So you always want to be moving, which is with these keybinds you never stop moving, which is perfect. So, oh yeah, let me touch up on the console keys real quick. Whether you are on Xbox One or PlayStation 4, you should be using Builder Pro. I know a lot of people are hooked on Combat Pro because they're used to it, but Building Pro is really the only way to go. Some people say it's hard to get used to. I understand, but I promise if you're looking for long-term success, well, by long-term I mean like if you're willing to put in like a week, okay? If you're willing to put in a week to get used to Builder Pro, I promise you'll never want to go back to anything. You'll be able to build so much better than you would be able to with Combat Pro or any of the others. So I promise you Builder Pro is the best configuration for console players. But that concludes this little video here. I hope you try out my keybinds. I really hope you do. They took about a week for me to get used to, but now that I've gotten used to them, I'll never go back. And that's pretty much it. There's my video settings again, and I'm out of here.